another episode of Old versus New. I'm here with my Uncle Brad, and today, of all days, we're doing one of my all-time favorites. We're doing Tiki.
This is a big subject, and I love Tiki as well. I don't know what it is. I do know what it is. After reading through the history of Tiki and how it came to be, I realized that I fell into the Tiki culture just like everybody else through like Gilligan's Island and stuff. But Tiki goes much further back, and so this is definitely a topic that is close to my heart.
I really do believe there was this wave of Tiki that just came in, and it came in hot.
Yep.
And now I can tell it's resurfacing a bit. I think it lost its steam. Now it's coming back. But I think really and truly what I want to know that I don't know is, why did Tiki start? Why did Tiki drinks become this cult thing? What started it all?
Yeah. So before I tell you about how it started, you are absolutely right. It is coming back hot, and we kind of fell into a lull, and then Tiki Tiki is actually, if you think about it, craft cocktails and Tiki, they have a lot of things in common. So this resurgence of cocktails and the craft cocktail really aligns with the history of Tiki. So let me tell you about Tiki. And it's interesting because it's not necessarily a thing that's from the Caribbean, although Tiki really leans on rum. 90 years ago, there was this guy named Ernest Gant, and he was and is considered the godfather of Tiki. And Gant's background is he was a bootlegger and had a speakeasy called Ernie's. And he spent some time on ships going to, in the shipping industry, going to like Australia and Hawaii in Southeast Asia. So he comes back, he changes his name to Don Beach. And he changed his name because he wanted to distance himself from being a bootlegger. And so he opens this place up called Don the Beachcomber. And Don the Beachcomber was really kind of the first Tiki bar. And this is down in Hollywood, California. And he's got this Polynesian theme because, through his travels, he, collected all these trinkets and masks and bamboo. And he sets this bar up. And he's got, as you imagine, a classic Tiki theme going. He had, rain and water that would turn onto the windows and make it look like it's raining.
Yeah.
And he created this like escapist mentality. And so people loved going to his place because it kind of took them to someplace else, like Southeast Asia. And what was interesting is that he served food, right? He had to serve food at that time because, that was a Prohibition era law that if you're going to open a bar, you've also got to serve food. To serve his food, he would serve like Cantonese style food, so Chinese food, because to him that meant exotic in Southeast Asia. And then what he would do is he created all of these different recipes, and the guy made a menu that had 60 cocktails on it, all kinds of different combinations of fruit juice and rum and different kinds of rum. And he became famous for this escapist kind of like place where you could go on vacation in his bar, and then also became famous for his cocktails. And his big cocktails were the Zombie was one of them, but also the Mai Tai was one of the cocktails that was famous for Don the Beachcomber. So Hollywood falls in love. War breaks out in the Pacific. All of these people go off to war, and they're in Southeast Asia now. And now they're coming back from the war, and Hollywood's now making movies about Southeast Asia. They've got television shows like Gilligan's Island, Hawaii Five-0, and the Tiki culture just takes off. And so another guy pops onto the scene. This guy's name is Victor Bergeron. And Victor opens up a bar in Oakland, California in 1934 called the Hinky Dink. And Victor also liked this Polynesian Tiki style theme. And what he would do is when people would come into the bar, he would exchange free drinks for trinkets that they could bring that were
that's cool.
Like, yeah. So Vic, trading for free drinks, also a great restaurateur, gets picked up by Conrad Hilton. Hilton's like, hey, let's drop these Tiki style bars into our hotels. He opens one out in Hawaii. He opens one up in Seattle. They're starting to pop up all over the place because everybody's in love with tiki. Guess what the name of the bar is? Trader Vic's. So that Vic's comes from. So those two guys really were kind of the godfather and the second godfather. And then there's another guy, but you know, that's a story for a different day because we're not making any of his cocktails. But Trader Vic, also famous for the Mai Tai.
That's what you're going to show me how to make today.
Yeah, let's make the Mai Tai. So what I just did is I put ice in my shaker. I'm going to put some ice in my mug. Now got to make it look tiki-esque. So what I'm doing right now is I'm taking my lime and I'm squeezing them into my shaker. I know that these 2 limes make about 1 ounce. That's just the size of the lime, but it's really important to measure out your ingredients. And that is a thing that used to be uncool, right? That a bartender would just lean on the drink and they knew how to count. And the thing is cocktails, it's like baking. You want the right proportions in that cocktail. And if you want it to taste the same every time. And so I'm a big fan of measuring. So I've now got 1 ounce of lime juice in my shaker, and I'm going to throw the extra tired lime there in my mug.
Perfect.
Okay. And now I'm going to take my orgeat. Orgeat is an almond syrup. It's a sweetener. It's actually spelled like orgeat or orgeat, but the French say orgeat. They say orgeat. I say orgeat. Now you will say orgeat. So I'm going to take a 1/4 ounce of orgeat, and I'm going to take a little simple syrup. Again, 1/4 ounce. There we go. So now we're going to take 1 ounce of dark rum. I'm not using Myers. There is more dark rums in the world than Myers, so I'm using Zaya.
That's a good one.
Yeah. All right. So I've got 1 ounce of dark rum in there. Now I've got 1 ounce of Martinique Amber Rum. Martinique Amber Rum, and this is agricole. All right, and then the last thing we're going to add is a 1/2 ounce of orange curaçao. All right, so we've got the ingredients in the shaker. We're going to put it together. Give it a little shaky. All right, now I'm going to double strain because I want to get the pulp out of there, right? And I don't want that stuff floating around in my cocktail. All right, so now I'm going to taste my my cocktail. Definitely tastes like I nailed it.
Nailed it?
Nailed it. Yeah. There's beef around the Mai Tai. And
that's what you were saying. Yeah, I need to hear the beef.
And Don the Beachcomber and Vic, not friends. And so what ends up happening, right, is Beachcomber opens up and he comes out with a drink called Mai Tai Swizzle. And Vic's opens up and he comes out with a drink called the Mai Tai. So the Swizzle and the Mai Tai, Vic's Mai Tai and Beachcomber's Swizzle, they don't resemble each other than the fact that they're using rum, right? And they're using an orange liqueur. So you've got orange curacao and Vic's, and you've got Cointreau and Beachcomber's. Beachcomber also uses grapefruit juice and falernum, I think is how you say it.
Oh, yeah.
And Vic's doesn't, right? Vic's ends up, in my opinion, kind of tasting better. And but Beachcomber, you know, he was attached to this cruise line. They brought this cocktail to Hawaii. You know, it's in this, I think it was the Royal Hawaiian Hotel, which is why the Mai Tai became so popular in Hawaii. And Vic takes him to court. And by the way, Beachcomber's like people are reproducing this stuff in bottles and stuff. So Trader Vic is able to prove that he invented the Mai Tai first. And if you look at all of Beachcomber's menus and whatnot, the Mai Tai Swizzle, actually, it didn't end up on his menu in the 30s. It didn't end up on his menu until like the 60s, right? The Kennedy era. And so there's no evidence that Beachcomber has developed the Mai Tai previous to Trader Vic. But you can go back in Trader Vic's records and you can see that this was on his menu prior to that. So Beachcomber claims that Vic was in his restaurant, which is true. And Trader Vic and Beachcomber have, they've exchanged, a conversation with each other, and that he stole the recipe idea from Beachcomber. And these guys who wrote this book, it's Beachcomber Berry. I was listening to this. It's, by the way, Beachcomber Berry, Beach Bum Berry remixed. This book, if you are into tiki cocktails, this book is the Bible, because this guy went back and he researched and found all of these old tiki recipes. And it is a bit of a segue away from the Mai Tai, but tiki restaurants all had their unique recipes, and they guarded them because it was like marketing, just like this tiki mug is marketing. Tiki mugs were unique to the restaurants. Drinks were unique to the restaurants. So when you get two restaurants claiming they have the same drink, becomes a bit of a beef, which is now we're back to Vic and Beachcomber. So Vic wins this court case in 1970. And so now they're saying, well, Vic truly was the person who invented the Mai Tai. The interesting thing is this, and this is what I would wager is that it's the actual case. Mai Tai is an expression in Tahitian that means the best. And it's actually a saying. So when somebody eats something or tastes something that they love, or they see something they love, they say Mai Tai, which means the best. This is the best. So Beachcomber was in Tahiti, probably came up with this thing and said, I'm going to call it the Mai Tai Swizzle or the Mai Tai. And Vic had two Tahitian buddies in his Oakland bar, and he was making, these cocktails and put something together. And his Tahitian buddy said, Mai Tai, the best. Each one of them probably, developed this Mai Tai thing on their own. But Beachcomber made a lot of money at it, through syndication and whatnot. And Trader Vic is like, nah, that's my cocktail.
And you like his better?
I do like his better.
Have you tried the other Beachcombers?
I have. And honestly, if you put his in front of me, I drink it. It's just fine. It's not bad by any sorts of, look, this guy was selling a lot of Mai Tais, it's not like it's a bad drink. I just happen to like Beachcombers a little bit better. I
think I have a really good recipe.
All right, I'm listening.
So one of the things I was contemplating on, and this is where it might change, is I really want to incorporate not only Mezcal with rum, but absinthe. And I know that that's weird, and I know that that's crazy, but I think it would play really well. So I'm just going to rinse my glass, and I'm actually, instead of discarding it, I'm just going to leave it. Just going to leave it because there's really not that much. You can sip it if you want, but there's not enough for me to really dump out. So I have that. I'm going to add my crushed ice to that as well. What I'm going to do first is I'm only going to do 3/4 of an ounce of Mezcal. Next thing I'm going to do is rum, of course. I'm going to do an ounce of rum. I'm also going to do 3/4 of an ounce of lime juice. I'm then going to do an ounce of pineapple juice and 3/4 of an ounce of passion fruit juice. And then last thing we're going to do is some Demerara syrup. So we add our ice. I'm going to add a little bit of ice on top. And then to garnish, which is one of my favorite things to do, is we're going to do lime wheel, 2 leaves, got your lime, and then smack the mint. Add the mint on top, add your straw. And there you have a cocktail that I've created that I don't have a name for.
Well, now's the moment.
Oh.
What shall you call it?
Death by Oaxaca.
Another thing that I've noticed in some of these tiki recipes is a few of them use Pernod, which is kind of like it's in the absinthe family, right? Yeah. So
no, I think that this is fantastic. I wish you could have some. I would put to really, because there is something to be said. I can taste it. Maybe it's just because I've had so many cocktails. I would love a Luxardo cherry too on top that maybe sinks in and kind of gives you that But to describe the cocktail with flavors that I used, you get the smokiness. You also get a very light, sophisticated flavor from the absinthe that it's if you would wonder what it was if you didn't know it was in there. You'd wonder what that flavor was, which is perfect. That's exactly what you want. The rum plays well with that tiki flavor. It's a little spiced rum, dark rum, those kinds of flavors, which I think is great. And then you have the tropical citrus. And for me, this is a very me cocktail with the mezcal, but it also plays into my favorite cocktails, which are tiki cocktails. So I made myself the best of both worlds. Uncle Brad, that's it for our Tiki segment. Again, thank you for always being on once a month. It really is so fun to talk about the history, to go into cocktail making, knowing how to make it right first. I absolutely love doing this with you. Like always, we're going to have both of our recipes underneath and on my website, so you can find them there. And make sure to follow Brad, my Uncle Brad, Cigars and Vino. You can find me at join_Jules. Visit the website, joiningjules.com. Make sure to like, subscribe, do all the things. But at the end of the day, make a good cocktail. That's all we ask. So, Brad, we did it again. Cheers.
Cheers.